I have decided to speak, I think, in what is going to be the most open way um, about my views on religion, organized religion anyway. So I have shared, at least in videos for maybe a year or two ago, that I am Catholic. I have a large number of disagreements with the Catholic Church. I think that many of their views are outdated. That I guess that comes with the territory of being part of, this worship for some text that was written thousands and thousands of years ago. But we can get into that later. Let me say hello to Saberwolf. Also, Saberwolf. Did you see the name of the stream from the other stream with the filibuster in the description? All right, I appreciate that, Amino. So I want to come out and put it this way. I don't think any of these religions are perfect. And I say that as someone who, again, identifies as Catholic. I can name my problems with the Catholic Church and just many of their beliefs until the cows come home. Um, you have the supposed blindly worshiping your mother and your father, no matter what awful things they did to you, just you have to worship them. Um, but that we can go into that later. Obviously, their views on the rights of LGBT people. There's a whole bunch of things that could be discussed there. Um, but to break down piece by piece what religions bother me the most, I would say the only thing that I don't like about Judaism, from what I know of it, and I don't know as much of it as I know about Catholicism, was the whole thing of um, what was it? You have to cut off the skin around your you can the foreskin of your private area if you're male. So that's the only part I would at least knowingly contest. Um, and then obviously with well, yeah, I know what the term is, circumcision, yeah. And Dirk says third topic. I'm not sure what he means by that. What you mean, the third video today or third stream or what? So you can enlighten me on that. Um, the part I hate about religion the most, and this is for pretty much any religion, we've seen it across all variations, is this thing people have where they use it to. So you'll have someone do something that is humanly evil, whether it's bombing a building like some of these terrorists do, or all in the name of Allah, as the various Al Qaeda members like to scream out back in the early and late 2000s. And you have many people who um, will hide behind it. They'll go into they'll preach their hatred for some other group. You've had religious pastors who've called for the death of homosexuals just because they're homosexual, not because they killed anybody, not because they committed a crime. It is a crime to them to like someone of the same sex. Um, and they'll be completely content with it because they say, well, in the Bible it says you must have distaste for this, and this is where me and the church kind of start to deviate in the mid 2000s. It didn't take me long to be discontent with the views of many other Christians that I knew. And I said, you're talking about your distaste and discomfort with gay people just for being gay. That's insane. And then, they would actually tell me I was excommunicating myself from the church. Let me tell you how little how much I don't care about what the church in its organized form thinks of my religion. You could have the Pope come out today and say, I am declaring that Justin is no longer Catholic. I wouldn't care what that man in that white suit has to say. Man who's never met me. Okay, CX has ever heard of Pastor Yeah, that's one of them, but there's more than that. Dirk says, in the Catholic Church, the communities do the same heresy. Some pastors are like that. You said that well, earlier. You said that, yeah. But I want you to understand with me being opposed to the teachings of various religions isn't just I'm anti-Catholic or Islam or Judaism or any of that. It's me pointing out problems that I've seen come across these religions, which makes them all feel kind of the same because you have people who are opposed to similar concepts but claim to be from different groups. Like I go to Saudi Arabia, and you guys, there's a ban on freedom of speech. It's obviously, under Islamic rule. Not to say all Muslims are like that, but that is the ideology, the far radical version of that ideology that's being exercised over there. You come to U.S. and you have these far right Christians talking about uh, don't speak ill of God. Even if someone just asks, if God's so great, why are, all of these wars and famine and various, horrible ways of living um, allowed to happen? Okay, Saberwolf says, yeah, you're looking at it from a completely objective standpoint, which is good. Believe me, my religion was the first one I recognized had problems. And when you know your own has a variety of issues, you don't really care to go and say that the others are any worse or better than yours, except when they don't have the same problems. The other problem I have is that, and this is just something I've noticed mainly in the U.S. I'll give Muslims one thing. Generally, they stick to uh, the teachings of their belief system. So, for example, you have a lot of females that wear the hijab and always have it on no matter where they are, and only want to marry guys that are of their religion, even if it's insane to do so, just because you like someone. And personally, I've never understood that, but whatever. Um, I can at least give them credit for that. But you've had, and you know what group I'm talking about, many people who identify as Christian, they just do the most unchristianly things. I mean, you have people that leave these death threats online on their profiles with their picture, and then you go and look at another post of theirs, and they're talking about, thank God for this, and you say to yourself, you're not talking to God, you're talking to the devil. That's the only one listening to you, and you're telling somebody that you hope they die. What's wrong with you? Okay, Saberwolf says exactly. Um, and just, I mean, you have like, I don't want to name this group, but think about this. I am a believer of Christ, yet when I choose to openly break the rules of the Catholic Church by engaging in sex before marriage and accidentally end up getting pregnant and terminating the pregnancy, I can still go back to his church and say I'm a devout follower. What? I've seen that happen, both online and in person, where people will say I am, part of this group, but let me, use my private parts outside of the traditionalist sense of doing it after you found a partner you actually want to stay with and have some long-term relationship with. And oftentimes it's these same people that they ask for forgiveness just to do it again. Yeah, but here's the thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Saberwolf. It's not hard to not have sex with people you aren't married to. Because if you go back and look at the 40s, 50s, a lot of people when they ended up accidentally getting knocked up or impregnated, they'd have shotgun marriages. And I explained the same concept to a female I was talking with back in November who decried the notion, oh, they were forced into these marriages and that doesn't sound like it was that fun or fulfilling. But I'm sure it was fun and fulfilling when you were, sticking your private parts in each other. Think about this. You don't want to, she's trying to make it seem as if it's bad for it was bad for these southern people to be put into marriages after they had sex, but it wasn't bad for two of these people who came from the Christian South to screw without being married or being in that union and openly breaking the laws of the same God that many of these people claim to appreciate. I had a lot of respect for the and I'll respond to Roscoe soon, but I'm going to make this point. I had a lot of respect for that concept of holding people down to just this idea of you can't play without consequences, because back in the 40s and 50s, you didn't have someone going to the abortion clinic every time they got, accidentally knocked up. People knew that whenever that happened, you're tied to it for life because you just created a life. Um, and they knew, and this is my favorite part about it, they knew that, regardless of what your sky deity thinks, down here you have a new responsibility of taking care of this child you up to create. So you and this person that you found so pleasurable as to jump into bed with are going to participate in improving, or at least providing a stable environment for the life you both created. I thought that's a fair concept, that there's a consequence to come along with doing something as reckless as having unprotected sex with someone that you're not committed to. Just my opinion. Okay, let me respond to Brosco. Okay, I go to Christian school and 75% of students doing what they pledge to. It's hypocritical. I lose respect for them. I'm fine with someone doing whatever. Just don't be a liar or a hypocrite. I don't know what you're saying absolutely too, but yeah, I look, my thing with these schools now is that I've openly expressed my disagreement, and a lot of times you have people who try to argue back, but you'll be surprised. A lot of those kids going to those Catholic schools and just these other private institutions that promote religion really are not as fundamentally into it as you might think. A lot of them, are still sexually active with their classmates, or they're cursing somebody out online, or yelling back at their mother and father, even though in some cases they deserve it. I'll concede that, but people regularly break these rules all the time. And what I find so comedic is that it appears when you come out and hold people to, because personally my own interpretation of God, if such a thing is to exist as I like to believe, is that if this person truly is around, his reason for not intervening in these wars and these murders and people going online and talking about, they hope, as that one commenter said a couple of days ago to me, they hope that the police beat you brutally because you said that it has a lesser, you pointed out the fact it has a lesser chance of happening than when someone of your own ethnicity kills you. Yeah, stuff like that. He allows to happen because he knows people, it's a man-made issue, and that man-made issues can be solved by men. If these wars wouldn't be going on, if these world leaders would sign peace treaties and stop being greedy about, getting money in their pockets every time a bomb or bullet is used. But that's a story for another stream. So that was always the way I interpreted it. That all this bad stuff happens in terms of, barring natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina or anything like that, because people down here make it occur. That you're put in this world that can either, based off of the will of the people, be a really great place or be awful. Um, okay, Envoy says, I believe in religion and God, but it is still so depressing when you see what's going on in the world, like you said, wars, major crimes. I question stuff like children being born defected. Well, I give you a good example of children being born defective. That again goes back to the man-made issue that I was speaking on. Take the Ray Caruth case for example, which is, he's actually getting out, I think, in a couple of months, or maybe he, is out at the end of this year. But that was the story of this ball player that got this woman pregnant and didn't want to pay child support, so he ended up ordering one of his buddies to assassinate her, and she ended up surviving long enough to deliver this child prematurely. And the child has, I think it's cerebral palsy or something, but you can bet that having to come out of his mother early caused those defections. He was still not finished. um, and you can also, that he wouldn't have been delivered prematurely if his mother hadn't have been shot up by a man, that his father, who didn't want to pay child support. So that's a man-made problem. That man also chose to lay down with that woman, and just wasn't willing to pay the consequences of his action. I'm not gonna call it a mistake because again, that's something he can deem that whichever one for himself. Yeah, CX. It was a pretty big story at the in the end of the '90s. I was only about a year old when that happened. Heathen says he gets out of prison soon. I forgot which month, but I know. Um, Envoy went to sleep. Brosco went to sleep. Uh, Dirk went to sleep. Who else is napping in here? I have to start sending people blankets. They fall asleep during the stream. You don't hear from them for like 5 or 10 minutes. Envoy was passed out, and Dirk managed to come back from his tenure of being knocked out. So both of you regained consciousness. Um, yeah, I just hope that this is served to kind of explain how I think of these religions. I don't mind people being into them. I don't mind people liking them. I just get tired of I'm gonna send you my prayers and my thoughts and God this and God that when most of these issues that they're mentioning and talking about they can solve through man-made actions. Did you did any of you go to I didn't I didn't it was Monday through Friday for me and that was it. Saturday and Sunday you get to rest. Um, it's what keeps a lot of people safe. I don't know what you mean by that. My whole issue, okay, Envoy says my whole issue with people is overbearing, judgmental mentality. People they don't perceive as religious. Um, yeah, I don't like that. Look, my whole thing is I would not talk about my views until someone imposed theirs on me. I've had many people I've known who were atheists or skeptics, and I tell them, look, I don't have any bearing on you feeling that way, and I don't really care if you feel that way. To tell you the truth, I can completely understand where someone wouldn't believe any of this stuff. You're supposed to believe that some guy named Lazarus came out of a pit and uh, supposedly came back from the dead, and that a guy named Jesus, after being nailed to a cross, was resurrected in 72 hours. Sounds like lunacy by today's standards. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm telling you that um, all of this makes sense to me as to why someone wouldn't think any of it happened. I get their perspective on it. Dirk says, but also hate that I'm going to pray for you for the thoughts and prayers. Go out to you like, I can pray for myself. Thank you very much. CX says, my problem is people being forced to follow a religion when they have no idea what any of it really is. Yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, I'll tell you like it is. We live in a world where people are indoctrinated into most things. You have a lot of people who will affiliate themselves, in some cases, blindly with one political party because mommy and daddy were members of that party. That senator, for example, the one that lost yesterday, and the one that rather won hit the nomination for the Democrats, Manchin. He did an interview with the Young Turks a while back. They asked him, "Why are you a Democrat?" Because my mommy was a Democrat, and my daddy was a Democrat, and my granddaddy was a Democrat, and my granny was a Democrat, and my other granny was a Democrat, and my grandpa was a Democrat. Just started naming his family tree of how from birth he was supposed to be a member of this party. So when you have a lot of people now who are online talking about, God, thank God for this, I'm so blessed. If you go and talk to them and ask them when did you first get into religion, most will tell you it was while they were small children, uh, either being sent to a Catholic school or having someone tell them about the Bible or going to church service, all of that. My mama was a Democrat, and my daddy was a Democrat. Same thing. My daddy was religious, and my mama was religious. You say hello. No, now that day has come, Seven. Someone always comes right as I'm getting ready to pull the plug, coincidentally, and I don't want to pull it because the person didn't even get to participate in any of the discussion. Okay, Dirk says sounds like it's fake, but it has its proof. Yeah, look. I'm not. I personally think it happened, but if people don't, I have no reason to go after them for it because there's a lot to critique there. Dirk says, "How else would someone become religious?" Okay, LOL. I don't get some religious people started on homosexuality. Um, CX says, "Did you do another stream before the filibuster?" Yeah, I was going to. talk about how these people were leaving these absurd comments that I just didn't agree with, but then I started kind of deviating, and a user who remained nameless, except if you go back and watch the beginning of this stream, I'll tell you who it is, uh, pointed that out or made a comment. I said, all right, well, forget it. And I tried to do another one on another topic, and this guy just came in here holding up the billboard for, go to this channel, they will solve your problems. Go to this channel. So I got tired of that too. Yeah, BLK is very late. I was in my final moments of of this stream. All these people started. It was just 5 people, and then the number just increased by double of that. I was stunned. Um, but let me see if anybody else said anything. Okay, Kuzan says, "Hi, you're about to end it." I certainly was. Um, well, if your notifications are messed up, you can. I don't. Yeah, I've seen that too, but I usually just hit the bell. Let me see this. If not by word. Okay, Dirk says if not by word of mouth. Yeah, you're not. I would Saberwolf should consult his service provider. Although they're probably out of business thanks to actually I take that back. They're probably experiencing a business hike thanks to the genius chairman of the FCC. That personally I wouldn't mind seeing him get his just desserts by getting fired, but whatever. Um, let's see what else is in here. No, but the main point I was trying to make during this whole thing: send thoughts and prayers my way from my internet. Yeah, keep praying to the sky entity, and suddenly things will get better. I've seen so many people just almost absurdly bring up religion, and then you look at what actually happened. So, for example, you've had people who will look at elections and they'll go, this person lost thanks to the intervening of the hands of God. You had the Alabama Senate candidate, for example. They asked him what happened during the 2016 election. God prevailed. What? I'm supposed to believe God was for Trump in the midst of his admitted affairs, whatever. Eh, if that's true, I'm not saying it's not true, but if that's true, that should tell you that sky deity is not a fan of people actually sticking to the Ten Commandments. Okay, Heathen says God should have told Romney not to bother running. That whole 2012 field was of Republicans was kind of wacky anyway, except for Ron Paul. But that's we're not here for politics. I keep talking about that, and we're gonna see about half the chat room leave. Okay, Saberwolf is giggling. Dirk is nodding his head like one of those Weebles, the little ball that rolls back and forth. So what else is here? Um, but yeah, so other than the part I mentioned about how people will openly break the Ten Commandments, and it is a large majority of maybe not Christians in general. I take that back, but there is significantly a larger number of Christians doing it from what I've seen than other groups. And again, I've only been around Christians more often than not. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't see Muslim chicks, walking around saying, I'm Muslim and then not wearing the hijab, and you don't see Jewish guys saying they're Jewish and not cutting up their yeah. So we've been over that. Uh, Heathen says politics are an integral part of American life. It's ignorant to ignore the importance. Hey, I agree with that. That's why it's the main thing I talk about and pay attention to. What you have to understand is that there is a large group of people who will say, I don't know much about this. I'm not going to bother to try and read or hear what he has to say. Let me turn that off and just go somewhere else to whatever they feel more comfortable with. Um, so I'm not understating its importance. Actually, if we want to go back to this topic and bring it in slightly, that's one of the things that pisses me off about current candidates is this thing where they try to impose religion, and it's something you see with a lot of these conservatives. Even though I don't think you have to be conservative and also be all wannabe preacher, um, there's a such thing as the separation of church and state, and a lot of the founding fathers were uh, not overtly religious. Let's put it that way. And they knew when they came together during the the signing of our Constitution, or rather when that was implemented, you were going to have people of varying religions, and this will obviously affect the way that some govern, but that one should not rule the government. And so when you have all these candidates who are talking about, their Christian credentials, I start vomiting because they're completely circumventing the purpose of the Constitution and just all of our laws, which are to be a non-secular government that goes by laws as opposed to flawed ideologies. All of these ideologies, if you really look into them, have flaws. I just told you earlier about the honoring your mother and your father. What if your mother and father were, I don't know, Bonnie and Clyde? Exactly. You're not going to want to honor that. You shouldn't. Certainly not because some text from thousands of years ago, told you to. Okay. Kuzan says, "What's your opinion on creationism?" I need to learn more about it. Uh, okay, Dirk says, "No Jewish guy that doesn't wear a yakima, the little." Yeah, I was wondering what that was because I just know it as that little hat that they put at the at that back part of the head, and it kind of folds to cover the. It's not the whole back, but it has this really unique position. Okay, Dirk says the "I'm a Christian" something else and something else not ordered by the vice president. Are you talking about Pence? I really hope, because if you are, we might have to retitle this stream as well and just call it the Half Pence Rant. We could go over all kind of things he's done as governor that scare me if he were to get higher office, if these people that want to impeach Trump get their way. I mean, he is so much the arch nemesis of church and state being separated. It's not even funny, and it's actually kind of disturbing that you have look for as many um, because there is a pattern of people who are atheist and non-religious, being liberal or Democrats or whatever. A lot of them want Trump out, apparently not realizing that whereas Trump is trying to appeal to the little religious conservative base, Pence actually is that and would do things to ensure that. But whatever. We can go back to the electroshock therapy for gays if you want to if you want to take my word for it, where you treat that as some kind of mental disorder, even though thousands of people have that interest. Whatever. Um, okay, Heathen says it's not coincidental that most religious zealots have low IQs. If you, I was going to mention, even in identifying as religious, I don't doubt anyone who doubts the Bible or any of the stuff in it. I don't blame you, because much of it doesn't make sense, whether it be the Lazarus, coming out of the pit, or Jesus, some guy getting nailed to a cross and coming back 72 hours later, or some sky deity telling you must do this, and then the guys he's talking to are having sex with multiple women at the same time. Okay, IQ doesn't gauge intelligence. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Okay, Saberwolf says, I guess it's American culture and we're not as strict. So that's why people sway from their religion. We're not strict about really much of anything anymore. We have people who openly will deny facts, or if they acknowledge it, will still try to fight against it. Yeah. Um, so I don't. We could go into just the gradual decline of society. And if I actually sat here and named what I'd like, a lot of people will say that's radical and insane and it could never happen. But it couldn't happen, not because people theoretically could not exercise. People just don't have the patience to do it. 'Cause a lot of us like to think in the short term. I'm an alien from the planet these locks 5 with an IQ of nine. Okay, heathen, you come on. I don't want to make a NASA stream. No one's gonna watch that. Oh man, please don't make me do that one. I really would prefer not to. I mean, we have a majority of people that probably couldn't even tell you what president established NASA. Without the world would be a little bit better. I don't know if I agree with that, Dirk. I think without religion affecting the way we govern, the world would be a little bit better. Yeah, wicked gesture. I'm so disappointed about the 0 viewers. Okay. CX says where people should be tested before becoming parents. Exactly. No, think about this. They have all these rules and regulations for you to get a driver's license, for you to drink, for you to smoke. Um, but if you want to create a life and potentially sentence someone to an undesirable, what, 50, 60, 70, 80, in rare cases, 90 years, go right on ahead. They have no economic test. They have no stability, just nothing. You know, you won't believe me if I tell you that the only two, at least know that I know of, females that I went to high school with that are currently mothers were actually both the most annoying and illogical ones in terms of when I actually sat down and spoke with them. But again, that could be a story for another. If people won't buy that, they'll say there's no way coincidentally those two are the only ones that have so far become whatever. No, there's no way. They'll just deny whatever I have to say. So I'm not going to go into it, at least not in this stream, because I'm going to lose half my audience. They're going to think I'm spewing fiction. I'm trying to I'm testing out some story I'm going to write for a paper. Having I feel I'm not sure what BOK is agreeing to. Okay, one of my friends is 18, having and it was by accident. Of course, I feel bad for the. Well, again, Saberwolf. The thing about you have to understand about your friend is that I can guarantee you, if that woman he's doing it with, I don't know this circumstance, but if she is disillusioned with his role and tries to impose child support, it will likely be his parents trying to pay it off, and they will have to now suffer for something their son did. Um, which again breaks the. And then ask him, is he religious? And if he is, and he says Christian, you're not honoring your father and your mother like the Bible said. So it all goes back to that. Okay, Dirk says 18 years of human being, your responsibility, yet the parent isn't even responsible for themselves. Yeah, they throw their private parts all around like candy. And I told you, with a lot of these women we're seeing now that are having these children out of wedlock, it's like every time I go on one of their pages or see one of their pages, all they do after they have the kid is just pose with it for pictures and, ooh, look, it's so cute. And then all the people in the comments, like, are you guys warped? They're talking about you're winning because you have an attractive child that you can pose for and I guess look like you like it in images, when in reality, all of us online don't know if the kid's being taught anything or being you know given any type of treatment that warrants it actually having a fighting chance, like a college fund. They're not thinking about that. They're just saying, oh, cute child, yeah. Okay, Wicked Gesture says, I don't think people should be tested. I just think our schools should do what Japan does, teach children life skills. All right, well, we agree to disagree. Um, Dirk says, make sure that your friends know that I have sent my prayers for the child to be in the best situation. Yeah, that again. I've informed Sky God of your circumstance, and I hope that he does something, despite the fact that Sky God is supposedly so all-knowing, he should know already. But we're gonna, that breaks into the narrative behind praying for something. Look how well Life Skills has done for the young Japanese male. I don't. I'm not entirely familiar with Japanese culture, so you'll have to inform me of what good it's done him. If something tells me from the way that was written that was sarcastic. And I also realize that when it comes to this thing about having the bastard children, which are in violation of the Bible, and a lot of Christians will do this anyway. It's a pretty rough spot because it basically means, do I so for example, if they have an abortion, that's terminating of life, therefore in violation of the Bible. And I'm someone who's in favor of people having the right to that, so just keep in mind. I'm not saying let's cut that off, but if they go ahead and terminate the pregnancy, they're violating the Bible. Then if they have this child out of wedlock, they're still violating the Bible. But you know what that tells you? When they were faced with the circumstance of, do I adhere to the book from, before uh, any of my family members respond, or do I, adhere to the calling of what's in between my legs when it comes to this person that's, I think looks good or whatever? They pick the latter. They say, screw this old book, forget that, old building that all those people get dressed up in a bunch of pretty clothes to sit in. I'm just gonna go and, do my little natural element Tarzan thing. Okay, Heathen says otakus are another name for these types. I'm looking it up. Um, oh, okay, they're that are basically. Well, I mean, I've been accused of that as well, and I'm not, Japanese, so. And it's really strange because, as I've explained on here before, I have, um, a couple of people I go and talk to and do things with. I'm not going to show them in videos; they don't want to be in videos. So it's funny that you've had again people who come from these diametrically different cultures. You're talking about Japanese and I'm American, and then you get the same supposed result, even if the person who you're claiming has the same circumstance isn't that way. I just think it's amusing. It used to be annoying, but when something is true and something isn't, it isn't as bothering. Only when they start posting it every day on your page over and over and over again. Just like every time somebody used to post, uh, someone's thing about God's speed is the best speed. Or something. Say, man, don't tell me. Look, with this relationship thing, don't tell me about the sky deity right now. Just stop. Stay out of here with that. I'm supposed to believe God has determined that uh, people, make life difficult for others. That was God's doing. Just like how when people oftentimes die in those, shootings, whether it's by stray bullet or an actual assassination, you have people who write online about God wanted to call an angel home, and then they take a picture of the person and pose angel wings over them. I thought to myself, it is not God's decision that someone picked up a human-made firearm and fired it into another individual, either by purpose or by accident. It is the fault of the person who did that. God's not going to intervene because God has a strict code of, I'm going to watch these people that I created do whatever they can to either improve or destroy the lives of those around them. And you have to understand, a lot of people when um, and many of us don't want to admit this. It's easier to destroy something than to create something. That's why you have so many people who are more in tune with whenever I speak negatively about a topic, then it's just me going, "Oh man, this great thing happened." It's not entertaining. There's a large audience for negativity. Thing about mines is that most of it ends up happening, you know, pretty consistently. Okay, if that's God's will, wouldn't that kill the idea that God's infallible? Yeah, I would think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I don't claim to have the answers to this stuff. And I don't believe God is responsible for people being born into horrible conditions. It's their parents that decided for that to happen. Again, two people jump into bed and spawn some child that gets killed 16 to 18 years later when it's, shot by some other person living in that same community, and it's God's fault. God called him home. God said the best you could be was the, you know, result of your parents being horny, and your demise was because you stepped on someone's shoes. No, what we do is free will, yeah, or fate. Okay, my hand is actually really getting tired now, so I'm probably gonna end up ending this really soon. So if there's any last comments and questions, you've got about a minute, and then it's over. Yeah, I agree with Dirk. It's free will. I just wish more people would see it. And like I said, I really at this point don't care as to the views of my religion by others. You could have the Pope himself come out and exo communicate me or whatever, as many individuals online were trying to do, and I wouldn't care for it because that man doesn't know me. It's just a guy in a suit. Do you read the Bible or go to church? I have read the Bible. I have gone to church. I currently do neither of those things because I have seen them both as ineffective in terms of promoting. If a person lives an ethical and moral life, that yeah, someone called. So if a person lives an ethical and moral life, that